Hey everyone, we're going to be showing a walkthrough of a solo feral druid through Stormwind's Horrific Vision. Now, Stormwind's going to be a little bit more difficult than Orgrimmar, as most melee know, specifically for melee. The range actually seems to have a little bit easier time with it, but I don't give a good look, but what I'm running as feral is Predator, Renewal, Balance Affinity. Actually, I think I ran Guardian Affinity for a little bit of a damage reduction buff. Typhoon, Soul of the Forest, Primal Wrath, and Blood Talons. That's essentially your standard feral AoE build, because our single target doesn't really get hurt by those changes. It still remains fairly strong, but our cleave is going to be enhanced greatly because of our ability to spread those bleeds a little bit more. Now, starting off, I always like to head over to Mage Quarter, just because I like getting the zone that gives me the heebie-jeebies out of the way. It's real narrow spaces in here, and there's a lot of opportunity to take some sanity damage, so I like to know what I'm going to be moving into the remainder of the vision with, sanity-wise, so I can plan how I use my orbs and kebabs and what have you. I was using kebabs. I was flashed, scrolled, potted, all that good stuff, so it was not a run that I took lightly, and definitely a run that I screwed up many a times, as you can see in this zone, through the stuns and fears that I wound up eating. And as you can see here, I am moving into the first mini-boss zone, who is not one that I really worry a whole lot about. There's a single cast that you can interrupt, but he's going to wind up hitting you. The main thing is moving out of the big ranged AoE ability that he does. But as a feral druid, the big thing you got to worry about is Burn Bridge, because you will lay that down all over the place. So, got him down, restored some sanity, and moving on. I did get very lucky this run with the number of potions that I was able to find that restored sanity, so that was a big thing. When you're cut back down to 575 sanity, I believe, is max because of the Mask of the Long Night. Every little bit counts, and getting 100 back for free is no small amount. So as you can see, I'm sitting here eating a kebab right now to restore a little bit. And that got botched, which is always fun. Remember to be careful when you use kebabs, because you have all these different affixes that happen in the zones that can easily interrupt it. Out here in the Mage Quarter courtyard, the mini-boss, another one that will restore, provided you have Elite Extermination. Another one that will restore sanity is this big amorphous blob guy. Pretty easy, especially if you move into him with Gift of the Titans. However, otherwise, just make sure that you move out of the way, which I did not do on a number of occasions, because most of his things are just area of effect sanity drains, as you can see right there. And there's one of the first potions that I was able to find to restore some sanity, which helped quite a bit. And the nice thing for feral druids is you do not have to drop stealth, and I'm sure the same goes with rogue or any other stealth-based class. You don't have to drop stealth in order to interact with potions or chests, so it helps out greatly. It allows you to get into some areas and pick some of those up and not have to worry about being seen. So now with Umbric, there is really only one spell that you have to worry about interrupting, because as a feral druid, you cannot be polymorphed. So his filthy or tainted polymorph, whatever that spell is, you don't have to worry about it. Let it go off. It's not going to drain sanity. Just interrupt his other cast, because it will chunk you. And make sure to dodge his ground abilities during the transfer. After you get Umbric down, Stormwind, unlike Orgrimmar, we're going to take the portal back to the center cathedral area. It gives us a little bit of a respite from the sanity drain, and because Stormwind is not so linearly kind of developed in how the zones are laid out, we will have a little bit easier time moving out from that central area every time we need to go to a different spot instead of transferring from one to the other. Next zone that I'm going to hit is the Trade District. Now, I use Trade District and Dwarven District loosely, depending on how my sanity looks after leaving one of the major zones. The reason being, these zones are very, very easy to use to get your sanity back. Obviously, having that double affix due to the mask can make it a little bit more of a sticky situation. However, the mobs hit less hard, the sanity drains less, and it generally is just an easier time to go back in there and restore your bar before moving into a more difficult zone. Once again, you can see that I did not optimize my use of Gift of the Titans, and because of that I took a little bit more sanity drain than I wanted to. However, I believe this is one of the zones that I got quite lucky with the potions that I was able to find, and pretty much restored myself to full sanity, and then some, if it were possible. Moving on to the second mini-boss in this zone, with a little bit of Gift of the Titans left, but not as much as would be ideal. This guy doesn't really hit hard. The sanity drain is pretty much nullified as long as you just stay out of range, so as a feral druid, that is bleed and run and rinse, lather, repeat. Now, based on where my sanity was after the Trade District, I opted to just run right next door instead of return to the Cathedral. There was no teleport, obviously, and no reason for me to cross through there because the Dwarven District was unnecessary, just based on my sanity level. There's really not a whole lot to worry about in this zone. Just don't be overconfident with your pulls, because with each pull there's at least two, I believe, invisible guys that they do chunk quite a little bit. So this is the first mini boss of the zone. She's very easy for feral druids because of our mobility. Just get out of range of her cleave, which does happen very quickly, and then stay out of in front of her when she does her blast. So it's an easy restoration of sanity. Just be mindful. There's another potion, as I just saw, and I'm going to use that when my sanity drops a little bit lower after this pull. And then move forward into it. The big thing to remember in a 5 mask is that time is not necessarily your greatest enemy with these, but rushing and hitting mechanics is far more damaging than speeding through and trying to mass pull, and not being mindful of your surroundings and the area of effect things that can hamper. There's another potion right there. I think we're up to 5 or 6 now, which is by far the most I've ever been able to find. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. I just ate quite a bit of damage from him, so I believe I am going to be using another orb right after this pull. I don't like to be under that 50% mark just because it starts to create new mechanics for you to interact with, and there's plenty on Matthias Shaw that you need to be able to deal with. That could be quite punishing if not handled correctly. It doesn't look like I am going to use an orb yet. I just ate a kebab. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I popped the orb on him so I can obviously sit in there and avoid some of his nastier mechanics. I will note that if you completely ignore all the mechanics and sit in the orb, you're still going to be at a detriment because they do chunk quite hard and the orb does not heal out enough of it. So with him, the biggest thing is just don't look at the eyes. The eyes are by far the most punishing thing. Granted, I don't think I've ever gotten hit by a swirly, but the eyes are a school bus of sanity drain, if you will. And then, as I said, we're going to use the portal here back from the major zone, so we don't have to worry about running out through any more sanity drain than is necessary, and heading over to the Dwarven District. And the Dwarven District, again, we're not going to lose our cool with pulling, but I will say out of all the zones, I think the Dwarven District probably has the least threatening enemies. I've seen Demon Hunters and other heavily cleave-based specs pull pretty much the entire zone, just burst them down, be mindful of mechanics, and have very limited issues on 5 masks. So, as a Feral Druid, cleave is not our strong point, and especially not burst cleave. So, managing group by group is the best way to handle it. We're well over half of our sanity left right now, so we've got a mini-boss coming up that's going to restore pretty much everything we've lost. So, it's another one of those zones that just cool, calm, and collected and get it done, and you get to move on to Illyria. Now, unlike Orgrimmar with Stormwind, I like to try to do everything I can to save that battle res that you get on sanity or health for Illyria, as just because of the confines of the room and some of the abilities she gets from the other bosses, makes it pretty hard to avoid every single thing you need to. So, keeping that battle res is just a little bit of a safety belt. Whereas Orgrimmar, obviously, Rexxar is more likely than not going to use and abuse that battle res in a very short span of time. And as you probably noticed from this, the entirety of this run, the affixes in every single zone have kind of thrown me around and abused me quite a bit, and I won't say that any of them were handled great. So it just goes to show that really being mindful of the mechanics of the enemies, you won't really have any issues with a 5-mask in Stormwind as a Feral Druid. Just making sure that you're not eating any enemy sanity drain more than is necessary, you should be fine. For Feral Druids, it's more those situations where you find yourself getting stunned out, and all of a sudden an enemy puts down a big thing, and then you're kind of SOL at that point in time. And we use the portal back, and now it's time for Illyria, and that's the 5-mask. The nice thing about Feral as well is we've got a number of abilities in our arsenal that allow for knockbacks, stuns, interrupts, all that. So there's few mobs in here that can't be handled as long as you have the foresight to know that there's something that needs to be done in the near future. Whether it's an interrupt or a knockback or a full stun. Always something in the arsenal. And you're going to go ahead and drop an orb right on top of Illyria. It allows you to just kind of ignore some stuff for sanity drain, but remember your health is still a thing in these, and if you eat all of those mechanics and assume you're going to be fine because you're in the orb, you will be very quickly and sadly mistaken. So I let my sanity kind of get chunked here, and then opted to just kind of keep my back to her and use my my swipe and my thrash and all the AoE abilities that I have to put up dots on her. And then I'd spin very quickly and throw a rip or throw a ferocious bite and spin back around and rinse, lather, repeat. As you saw, my battle res did go off. So in this fight, I've used the battle res and I've used an orb, and she still chunks away at it. So as for Azurite essences, you can obviously see them using Meme Beam through this run, but I've also heard that Purification Protocol is another great one to use, and really any of your AoE abilities are the ones that you want, because the single boss encounters are minimal, and a majority of the time you're handling a bunch of ads. So Blood of the Enemy also can work, what have you. But there you go. That is a 5-mask run as a Feral Druid, approximately 475 item level, through Stormwind. So, and the cloak was at 14, not 15, so I think this was what kicked it over. But I appreciate you guys coming and watching the video. Toss me a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch for any more Feral content. See ya!